Hello, Suhasini here. Welcome to my channel. Today I talk about intergenerational trauma. This is the third part of my trauma series. In the first part, I talked about the hardware, the nervous system, how it is impacted by trauma. And in my second video, I explored the software, the relational blueprint um, from through the lens of attachment style. Today, in exploring intergenerational trauma, I will view it through two different lenses, physiological and psychological. Even though I'm going to describe the physiological impact of trauma, it does have psychological counterpart. So you will understand. I will explain as I go through. Trauma does not always start with us. Almost always, it's passed down from our ancestors who had to survive natural or man-made stressful environment. Natural could be like earthquake, a volcanic eruption, or tsunami, or hurricane, those kind of natural disasters. Man-made are quite obvious. We have been experiencing it for the past 2000 years or longer. War, violence, colonization, mass migration, displacing people from their native land. History has full detail of it. There may not be anything wrong with you if you go through any undescribable or unnameable stress or trauma, anxiety, hyper-vigilance, etc. Probably your system is calibrated. You have inherited a system that is calibrated for high stress, which your ancestors had to experience for survival. From the physiological point of view, let me quote 2 or 3 examples from history. If you want to know more about it, always there is Google. You can find it out in detail. The first is the Dutch hunger winter. During Second World War, the Nazi Germans blocked the supply to Netherlands during a winter season, in which period more than 20,000 people died of starvation. Or there is a Leningrad siege during the same Second World War. More than 1 million Russians died of starvation. Closer to home, where I live in Australia, the stolen generation, the trauma caused by colonization, removal of children from their parents, the impact of that trauma is even today experienced by the local Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And closer to my place of birth in India, the natural famine and the forced famine, particularly the forced famine forced by the colonial British government, in which millions of people died of starvation. Later on, when you analyze the history of those who survived, it was found that those women who had the genetic disposition to store fat in their body, visceral fat, survived those famine. And that characteristic is passed on. It's called thrifty genotype and thrifty phenotype. You can use these words to Google search. Today, the modern urbanization feeds much higher calorie food, and this generation, the current generation, having inherited the capacity to store visceral fat, fed by high calorie food, you can imagine that cohort have high rate of diabetes and obesity. These physiological markers don't come by themselves. They leave psychological trauma. People from this region or in general, if you look around the world, people are more stressed nowadays, anxiety, hyper-vigilance. They are very common. And we kind of tend to normalize it because it's so prevalent in the society. But the emotional cost is too high, the psychological cost, the pain experience is too much. What happens biologically? Our DNA is not changed, but the trauma experienced by our ancestors leaves some kind of a chemical marker in our DNA, in the genes. If you can use a metaphor, as the DNA as a song, the trauma doesn't change the lyric or the melody of the song. It just turns the volume knob way up, that particular genes are highly susceptible to simple environmental stress or no stress at all. It's just the story that mind plays up. So from the physiological point of view, even though the body suffers, it leaves emotional and behavioral dysfunction, malfunction, dysregulation, and etc. Looking at the psychological aspects of trauma, I want to address two aspects. One is the behavioral family narrative, and another one is a very big one. I'll get to that in a minute. Let's look at the behavioral family narratives. Let me check my notes. Yes, there are unwritten family laws, family rules. Everyone knows. We all have our own family tradition. In the name of tradition and culture, we have unwritten family rules. Those rules, if you look back and analyze, most likely would have come from a generation, our ancestors who would have endured some kind of personal trauma or witnessed collective trauma. For example, I could say, very common one, money doesn't grow on trees. People who suffer through Great Depression and famine and other traumatic situation have that kind of a notion towards money. And among men, boys, the statement that, we don't talk of feelings. Men are trained to suppress or dissociate from their feelings is a traumatic behavior. We must always perform is another big one. We are driven by performance, achievement, success, go, 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 rat race. It could have some origin from our ancestors. That could have been something that we inherited. Think about it. Are you driven on your own will, or are you following some script? Are you choosing the life path, the lifestyle that you want, or it's the conformity or compliance? Your parents asked you, directed you, guided you, advised you to do so, and you are just following it. Is there inner conflict? Is there some kind of a resistance? Are you dissatisfied? These are the pointers which you can consider. Don't ignore the pointers. Consider them Sit with them and see which narrative belongs to you and which you inherited. At the surface level, people say, oh, that's normal. That's way of life. Life is stressful. Life is challenging. Maybe, maybe not. Consider the options. Do you have a choice? If so, evaluate the pros and cons. Analyze what belongs to you and what you inherited. My next big, probably for me personally, the second biggest emotional factor is shame. I'm sure many of you, most of you could relate to this word, shame. Shame is a legacy burden. Shame is a social signal. Shame is not an absolute truth. It is a signal woven into the complex social web. Previous generations frequently used shame as a deliberate protective tool. Shame was the simplest, the easiest, and the most effective tool to keep you small, to keep you quiet, and to make you conform. The intention wasn't wrong. It was a protective survival mechanism, not for us, but for our ancestors who had to endure foreign invasion, violence, mass migration, colonization. But we carry the pain. We inherit that trauma. It has become, over centuries, it has become the norm, the cultural, societal, religious norm. I can tell hundreds and thousands of stories how shame is ingrained in the blood of female in Indian culture. I guess it's everywhere, all over the world. If any of you is burdened, suppressed, and compressed by shame, I want to assure you that it's not yours. Feel the relief to know that you did not do anything wrong. Probably you expressed your feelings. You want to stand up for your own self, and you choose your life path according to your desire. But that could be easily be turned into shame, family shame, societal shame. So first of all, feel the relief. It's not yours to carry. You are 100%, 110% right to choose what you want in your life. Not in a selfish way, not in a mean, cruel, or arrogant, or, that kind of undercurrent. If any of those feelings are driving your action, probably that's a different story. We have to look at that aspect of it. But if you know you are doing right, if you know you want to stand up for yourself and you are shamed for it, please know that you are right and there is nothing wrong with you. It's the generational, intergenerational, inherited trauma. It's not the fault of your parents or your grandparents. They inherited from their ancestors and the first generation of your ancestral line who experienced personal and collective trauma, they had to use that to protect themselves. So the intention was right, but we don't belong to that generation, that era. We are in a different era. Now is not then. So without guilt, shake off your shame, the burden that shame puts upon you, and feel free to live your life to the fullest. If any of these things resonate with you, and if you do suffer from trauma, intergenerational trauma, please feel free to contact me. My contact details are below in the description box. My approach is on two different levels. At the first level, I help the adult self to feel grounded, self-regulated, and anchored in the present moment, in their strong, resilient core self. This happens in my presence. I act as an anchor, and in that space, the co-regulation takes place. Your nervous system learns to relax, and slowly it learns to regulate. So the first step is to teach the adult self-regulation, grounding, and emotional regulation as well. Self-regulation through emotional management and emotional development. Once the adult self is strong, then in the second step, I help you to connect with your inner child who experienced trauma in this incarnation, the first incident where the trauma imprint is made visible. It became active. When the adult self is strong, resilient, and powerful, then the adult self acts as an anchor for the inner child. The role is reversed. In the first step, in my presence, in my strong, resilient space that I create, you learn to self-regulate. In the second step, you become the anchor. The adult self is the anchor, and the inner child gets the support, nourishment, reparenting from the adult, strong, resilient adult self, and integration takes place. Consider this. You don't deserve to suffer, and you don't deserve to suffer alone. Help is available. Take care. Bless you all, and welcome to the baseline. Thank you.